and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on YouTube as well as on Twitch, X, Instagram, and on Facebook. I am Bryson Carver. It's great to be with you once again on a Monday morning. Again, this has been our new sort of shift, a new era of Carving It Up. We've moved to the mornings as of Monday. And I got to say, this is going to be a fun show, but this is kind of the last, how do I say this? This is the last show where we're just kind of reaching for topics, so to speak, or where it's a lot of speculation. Starting Monday, it's the real thing, man. Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Again, same time the show's going to air moving forward. Monday is going to be my official 2026 NFL predictions. So we'll go division by division, who makes the playoffs, award winners, MVP, Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, all that. And then, of course, playoff predictions, who wins Super Bowl 61 in Los Angeles and Inglewood, California, to be exact. And then on, I believe, Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, we're going to do our college football predictions. So next week is basically predictions week, and then Friday we'll do some ball view stuff, get ready for the official start of college football. It's going to be a blast. So definitely, listen, stay tuned for today's show, but next week we got all kinds of stuff coming up. Let's check out the chat. Everyone feel free to chime in the chat. Patrick says, happy Friday, everyone. Carving it up. Sunrise edition is live, and I am in living color is what he meant to say. He had the typo. Let's run up the comments. Have a great time. Stay safe and enjoy. Bryson, the Prince of Context Carver. I appreciate Patrick. Support as always. Great guy. Write some great articles for the Grid Network's website. And we got a lot to talk about today. We do. Going to start with Ty Simpson in just a second. We'll also touch on the other side of that preseason game last night in LA. Justin Herbert, in the one drive that he did play, looked awesome. It looked amazing for the Los Angeles Chargers. And I feel like we're sort of in that cyclical process with Justin Herbert where it's, hey, oh my gosh, this guy's going to win the MVP. It's like, well, could he win a playoff game? First touch on Justin Herbert in about 8-10 minutes or so. The Falcons quarterback situation has just gotten weird. Tua came into training camp. He's the clear starter. And then Kevin Stefanski says something that completely contradicts that. Is it going to be Penix? That might actually be good for the Falcons as opposed to Tua. The Pro Bowl, thank God, it is official. It's been canceled for good. Even the Pro Bowl games, donezo, never to be seen again. Great move by the NFL. We'll talk about that later. And then, I got to tell you, we're living in some rough times right now in this country. But occasionally, the president of these United States will give you something that just makes you scratch your head and think, where the F did that come from? His presidential rankings list, he released it on, I believe it was True Social, wherever he posts these days. And it was something. Matter of fact, I'll just go and say it. It's the worst list I've ever seen. Worst presidential ranking list I've ever seen in my life. Touch on that at the end of today's show, but let's get into some football. But first, so preseason week 3. Preseason has been 3 weeks for the last, I believe, 5-6 years or so. So, last time we'll see some of these teams before week 1. My Steelers played last night, lost close one to the Bills. The Raiders, Fernando Mendoza kind of struggled a little bit. Kirk Cousins is probably going to be a starter in Vegas. But the one that had a lot of people's attention for different reasons was the battle of the LA teams at SoFi Stadium. You had the Rams and the Chargers. The leading story, at least to me, was the Rams side of things. We'll get to the Chargers later. Ty Simpson was excellent. We can show you his numbers from the game. He started the entire first half. Ty Simpson against the Chargers, sensational. A touchdown pass, which was just holy crap. Chargers, excuse me. Chargers bring the house. He rolls out to his left, hits the guy for 6. No picks, 119 yards, 78% completion, 102 rating, played the entire first half. And when you talk about what Ty Simpson did in this game, and really what he's done in the preseason, we got his numbers for the entire preseason, 47 of 60, 382 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, a 109 rating. Now, of course, it's the preseason, it's backups, you can't overreact too much to this, but it ain't nothing. And I was thinking about this back to April when Ty Simpson was drafted. And I think it certainly was unanimous opinion, but it was majority opinion, myself included. It's like, oh my God, what are the Rams thinking? Like, this could be their last chance at going for it, trying to win another Super Bowl in the Stafford-McVay era. Stafford's coming off an MVP, but he's getting older. He's 39. The Myles Garrett trade hadn't happened yet. So again, that's sort of reframed how we thought about this entire offseason for the Rams. But it's like, okay, you got 2 first-round picks. You traded one of them for Trent McDuffie. Great move. And then you use the next one not to maybe bolster the O-line, not to, get another running back next to Kyren Williams or get another weapon opposite Puka, who's been in some trouble, Devontae Adams. You draft Stafford's heir apparent in the first round in a year you're trying to win the Super Bowl. Like, what are you thinking? And then you sit back and think about it. It's like, okay, well, wait a second. It is Sean McVay. It is arguably, the Rams have a case that they're the best roster, certainly the best roster, but the best run organization in the entire NFL. And how many times have we talked about in this show, man? Quarterback, I would argue, more than any other position in American team sports. I don't care about baseball, basketball, hockey. I don't care. There is no sport, team sport, where you land matters more than quarterback in the National Football League. I mean, I think the poster child, maybe for the rest of our time watching football, is going to be Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold lands with the worst run franchise in football, the Jets. Look at Sam Darnold now. He eventually ended up in a well-run franchise, Minnesota, 11-14 wins, had a bad couple of games, goes to Seattle, and he's a Super Bowl champion and is, I would say, regarded by more than half of NFL fans and prognosticators as a top 10 quarterback. I think he's around the 8th or 9th best quarterback in football. He had the talent. Sam Darnold's arm strength and his ability to stay in the pocket and take hits and size and all of that, that didn't change from when he was with the Jets to when he was with Minnesota and Seattle. He just needed more development. He spent a year, obviously, developing under Kyle Shanahan as the backup to Brock Purdy. Like, where you land in this league matters. There are only there's a select few guys where it's almost irrelevant where you land. It's just going to work. Like Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning landed in Indianapolis. He was going to work anywhere. Colts were a disaster. By year 2, they win 13 games. And we know the career Peyton Manning had. Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck landed on a 2-win Colts team. Not a very good roster. Garbage offensive line. Playoffs year 1. Playoff wins by year 2. AFC Championship by year 3. Injuries is just what derailed Andrew Luck's career. Even Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was kind of viewed as the best prospect since a guy like Luck or Peyton Manning. By year 2, Jags are in the playoffs, and last year, Trevor Lawrence, MVP finalist. Like, there are certain guys, it kind of doesn't matter. The vast majority, that's not the case. It's just not. Like, Patrick Mahomes, who I think is still the best quarterback in the league, didn't hurt that he landed with Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill. Could have been a worse outcome, right? Tom Brady did land and who's the greatest quarterback ever, no question. But Tom Brady did land with the Patriots franchise that, yes, certainly had not been very successful prior to him, but it wasn't like the infrastructure was all that bad, right? Unbelievable defense, good ownership group. And by the way, you got to sit behind Drew Bledsoe for a year and develop. It's like where you land matters in this league. And you think about somebody like Ty Simpson. If he had been drafted by, let's say Fernando Mendoza went number 1 and Ty Simpson went number 2 to the Jets, I would have virtually no faith that he's going to be an NFL starter, at least until he gets out of New York. I just wouldn't. But then he goes to the Los Angeles Rams, gets hit by Stafford, has quickly, and those small victories has clearly been better than Stetson Bennett in the preseason. This is not even close. Like, Stetson Bennett is at best going to be the Rams practice squad quarterback or emergency quarterback, I guess, for the regular season. Simpson's going to be the backup. Unless Sean McVay's just like, hey, let's put him in bubble wrap. Let's play this as safe as we possibly can, moving forward. But with new information, you got to kind of adjust. You got to change your take on things. And my opinion of Ty Simpson coming out of Alabama is he's good. Like, relatively accurate. Moves better than people give him credit for. I don't know if that's just because he's a white guy from Alabama, but it moves pretty well. Like, no one's going to accuse him of being just this dual threat, so to speak, but Ty Simpson can move a little bit. We saw in games last year against Tennessee and against Auburn, and I forget, there was one small school he had a pretty long touchdown run against last year. Like, Ty Simpson can move. And that's really kind of the only sort of weakness, so to speak, of Matthew Stafford, and large parts because of his age. He's a pocket guy. Like, that's what he is. And so Sean McVay in his mind's like, okay, Stafford's getting older and Devontae Adams is not in his prime anymore, but as long as Puka Nacua stays out of trouble, and that's a big if, Les Snead's maybe the best GM in football. We crush the draft every year. Trent McDuffie's young. Myles Garrett is in the prime of his career. He's still got some high-end years left in his career. We can slide Ty Simpson in there, in 2027 at the earliest, and we still feel like we can be a contender. I mean, I don't think that's an unrealistic a situation to think of yourself in. Think of a situation regarding a great offensive coach also on the West Coast. Now, this guy started as a rookie, but inherited a good situation. Bo Nix in Denver. Bo Nix in Denver, excuse me, goes to Sean Payton. Weapons aren't sensational. Like, Cortland Sutton's good. Marvin Mims are good. They're not special. They got Jalen Waddle this year. We'll see what Denver does. But you get arguably the best offensive line in football and a pass rush that is just monstrous. And Vance Joseph is a great defensive coordinator. Like, it's a good, ready-made situation for a guy like Bo Nix to plug and play. Like, if God forbid Stafford went down this season, let's say he's out 4 games, depending on the schedule, obviously, would be shocked if Ty Simpson stepped up and went 3-1? Like, I don't. Like, again, listen, this is, again, people are going to say, oh, you hated the draft pick in April. I did. First of all, I didn't see what he looked like in the preseason, but also, that was pre-Myles Garrett trade. That was from Cleveland, or from LA's perspective. Okay, we're going to make this move to get the best defensive player in football, but the other side of that coin, the second part of that, we don't have the ability to go out and draft our franchise quarterback with our own pick in the next couple of years. Cleveland's going to have our pick. So let's get our guy now. Let's develop him now. McVay can make just about anybody work. Like, McVay resurrected Baker's career. McVay, in some ways, resurrected Jared Goff's career. As crazy as that is to say, Jared Goff as a rookie was unwatchable. Year 2, he's a Pro Bowler. Like, it's just coaching matters in this league more than any other sport. And again, where you land matters. If Ty Simpson ended up on the Jets or on Cleveland, it's like, oh man, poor kid. He's never going to get the opportunity to truly develop into what that franchise hopes he'll be. Rams, ready-made situation. And he gets to sit for a year. Like, it's the ideal spot for him. And he, kid showed up and showed out in the preseason. And again, obviously he's not going to beat out Stafford, but he did beat out Stetson Bennett, who's been in the league for a few years now and has been in the Rams situation. That's not nothing. Like, looks significantly better than Stetson Bennett. And so, but again, that touchdown throw, again, I knew Ty Simpson can move, but being able to escape college defensive linemen is different than the NFL, obviously, even if they are backups. That play, he takes a snap. Basically, it's a all-out blitz from the Chargers, turns around, rolls out to his left, fading out of bounds, sidearms it for a touchdown. It's like, whoa. Now, these days, it feels like every quarterback kind of has to be able to make that throw. But for a rookie whose athleticism, I think, to a degree, was kind of underrated, that's kind of a, oh, okay, moment. Pretty good performance and a great preseason by Ty Simpson. Let's look at some comments here. Patrick says, if Stafford were to go down, would Ty Simpson be able to man the ship? Sean McVay's a smart head coach and play caller. All Simpson would have to do is not mess it up. Like, and I think, honestly, Patrick, I don't disagree with the not messing it up part. Like, we talk about game manager quarterbacks, like, just be efficient, don't turn the ball over. If you got a good run game to back you, convert on third down. I think that will be an element of this. But I think Sean McVay, we know play calling the preseason on both sides, defense and offense, is completely vanilla. No one's going to give away anything in the preseason. That'd be dumb. But I think there will be moments in the game where Sean's like, okay, Ty, I trust you to make this play. I trust you to make this read. I trust you to, be able to, if something breaks down, be able to improvise and make a play with your legs. Be, throwing the football in the pocket or running for a first down or what have you. So yeah, I think that's a good point, Patrick. He says, I want to see how Ty Simpson handles the real season. Can he be ready and gain trust within the team? Great offense and defense. McVay's calling plays and keeping it safe. I've always said any prototype quarterback who ends up with McVay, Shanahan, and Kevin O'Connell, you're in a great spot. Sam Darnold's a prime example of what can happen when you land in the right spot. And think about something, too. Like, it's not just, Patrick's right in the sense that it's not just well-run franchises, but it's good, smart offensive coaches. Like you mentioned, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Kevin O'Connell, all quarterback whispers. Think about somebody like Khalil Kubiak. Like, it's one of the reasons, I know he struggled in the preseason, but why I'm optimistic about Fernando Mendoza's ability to be a franchise-level guy is, look what he did with Sam Darnold. Now, was that more Darnold? Was it Kubiak? I think it was a mixture of the two. But I think there are these coaches that just, it's almost like speaking a different language. And the guys that Patrick mentioned, like, that's what they are. Like, if you end up with Sean McVay, it's kind of like with Trey Lance, for example, right? Like, if you don't work with these guys, it's you. Trey Lance couldn't work with Shanahan. Like, Shanahan was like, man, I can't. The kid's got a big arm, and that's it. Like, he doesn't see the field well. He's not accurate. He turns the ball over. I can't develop this guy. As soon as Brock Purdy by virtue of injuries to Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo steps up. McVay's like, Shanahan's like, okay, I can work with this. Couldn't work with Trey Lance. And now Trey Lance is the backup in LA with the Chargers, who we'll get to in just a moment. Patrick says Minnesota regrets letting Sam Darnold go, you think? Jettas will hold that against Minnesota forever. Yeah, speaking of Minnesota, we know Kyler's going to be the starter. Did you see the report? This is bad. Did you see the report where J.J. McCarthy was splitting the second-team reps with Carson Wentz? It's like, oh, Lord. This is, again, somebody else. Trey Lance didn't work with Kyle Shanahan. It's like, that's a Trey Lance problem. I'm sorry. That's on you, man. If J.J. McCarthy can't work with Kevin O'Connell, and again, I'll be honest, quickly on, I wasn't planning to talk about Minnesota, but now that Patrick brings him up, I really genuinely never understood the J.J. McCarthy hype coming out of Michigan. I really didn't. There were some people saying, hey, he could go top 3. I'm like, this is reminding me a little bit of Mac Jones in 2021, where it's like, okay, Mac Jones is accurate. He is, but noodle arm and can't move. Like, what do you see there other than a backup? And that's what Mac Jones is. With J.J. McCarthy, it's like, okay, he had the best defense in college football, arguably the best coach in college football at that point, Jim Harbaugh, and he had the best running game in the country. Like, kick and sling. Listen, JJ's got an arm. He can move a little bit. Not accurate, does not see the field well at all, and is completely reliant on a running game. So it's like, again, if you can't work with O'Connell, I don't know what to tell you. If you can't work with Shanahan, I don't know what to tell you, man. So it's brutal. And Patrick Carson here in the headlights Wentz. He was going to surpass Dak Prescott, right? Listen, I will never pass up on the opportunity to say and remind folks, Carving Up launched October 21st, 2019. And it was, I think, imperative that my very first take that I ever gave on this podcast was an accurate one, and boy, it aged like the finest of wine. It was right after the Cowboys. I think they just blown out Philadelphia on a Sunday night game, and Dak was way better than Wentz, and that was during the time, Wentz is better than Dak. I'm like, what are you guys watching? And it's like, Dak is clearly better than Carson Wentz, and again, no one disagrees with that today. All right, let's move on to the other side of this game with the Los Angeles Chargers and the LA Rams. So it came to a surprise of some. I wasn't stunned by it, the fact that Justin Herbert started last night's game against the Rams, because listen, this is the preseason week 3, back when it was a 4-week preseason, was kind of known as the dress rehearsal game. Like, starters would, back in the day, they played the first half, sometimes, like, I think back in Brady's prime, he played like a little bit in the third quarter. Like, things have changed. Sean McVay completely killed the preseason. I'm not playing my starters. I don't even think the starters, when the Rams are on the road in the preseason, I don't even think the starters travel. Like, Stafford is not even going on the road. I think their first road game of the preseason was in Kansas City. He's like, I don't even want you to come. Like, no point in it. And so certain teams are like, Andy Reid's kind of old school. He likes to play the starters. Sean McDermott and now Joe Brady in Buffalo. Like, you see Josh Allen getting reps in the preseason, and you see it with Justin Herbert. So Herbert came in and looked sensational. So he played 2 drives. He had a brutal fumble in his first drive, but then the second drive just throws again, this is what people fall in love with Justin Herbert, is not just the big arm, but the accuracy. Like, just hits Quentin Johnson on a rope. It is the ultimate. 60 yards down the field. You could not have handed him the ball any better. All the way to the house, touchdown Chargers, and that was the last time we'll see Herbert in the preseason. And like I said earlier in the show during the promo, I feel like we're on this just yearly cycle with Justin Herbert. Like, yes, we all acknowledge, I'm as much a stickler for natural talent as anybody. Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, Mahomes, Josh Allen. It's like the guys that just have God-given abilities, like I'm going to buy into their long-term prospects, even despite their failures at times, more than I would others. You would think Justin Herbert would be in that category. My question is this simple. Okay, so Justin Herbert came in the league in 2020. Sensational as a rookie of the year. Has he gotten demonstrably better since year 1? He's gotten better. He's a bit better player than he was as rookie in 2020. This is year 7 now for him. Has it been this just gigantic, oh my gosh, he is without question, there's not even a debate, he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in football, because that's what we thought he was going to be after his rookie season with the Chargers. It's like, oh my God, he's like 6'5", 6'6", moves pretty well, he's got a cannon for an arm, is durable, relatively, by and large, smart with the football, at least until the final 2 minutes of games at times. He's it. And then over time, it's like, oh my God, like, okay, you had Anthony Lynn, and then you had Brandon Staley. Oh, now you got Jim Harbaugh. It's like, yeah, but the offensive coordinator's the problem. It's like, okay, well, now you got Mike McDaniel. So Mike McDaniel, kind of an average head coach, but a great OC. You've got weapons. Like, listen, again, prior to getting Jalen Waddle, same division, no one was saying the Broncos had like the superstar receiver. Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims are good players. They're not special. The same could be said for guys like Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston. Like, you're fine. Amari Hampton's coming off of an injury last year, right? This is going to be his first this is really going to be Amari Hampton's real rookie year. Can run the football. You've got a good O-line, which is healthy now. Yeah, sure, you lost Biotish, but you got your tackles back, and you got a great defense. Mahomes is coming off an injury. Bo Nix is coming off an injury. The Raiders are not in your class yet. Like, this should be the year the Chargers win the AFC West. Again, I'll make my predictions on Monday, but like, there's kind of no excuses now for Justin Herbert. Not just win the AFC West, but to perform in the playoffs. And again, it's for the last, I call it half decade or so. When I say quarterbacks that just aren't very good in the playoffs, like, who do you think of? You probably think Lamar Jackson first. It's like losing record. He's had like maybe 2 good playoff games, like not great. Some bad turnovers and inaccuracy, and maybe looks a little tight. Others would say, hey, Dak Prescott. That's my guy. I got a bobbleheaded Dak back there. I love Dak Prescott. But Dak has had some rough playoff games. The Green Bay game 2 years ago, the second Niners game 3 years ago. Like, he's had some rough moments. I've said Josh Allen's an amazing playoff quarterback until like the final 2 minutes of games, in which the last 3 years he's had the ball in his hands with a chance to go tie or win the game, and it's come up empty all 3 times. I'm like, Josh is a great playoff quarterback, is not a very clutch playoff quarterback. And Justin Herbert, I don't know why. Maybe it's because he plays for the Chargers and he doesn't play for this premier franchise, or in the case of, like, Josh Allen doesn't play for a premier franchise in the Bills, but they've been playing big games for a while now since he got there. Maybe it's because, again, it's like they're not even the most popular team in their own city. He's outshone by Mahomes in his division, and the Broncos are good. This is not hyperbole to say, and we've done segments on this before. Justin Herbert's one of the worst playoff quarterbacks of all time. Like, he just is. So let's show you the raw numbers, and we'll go a little bit deeper. So raw number, it's bad. It's really bad. He has double the picks he does the touchdowns, 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. 54% completion, 65 passer rating, and an 0-3 record. Like, he's bad. There's no 2 ways about it. He's a bad playoff quarterback. And when you look at the 3 games, it's like, okay, he was the quarterback of a team that was up 27-0 and lost. And the next game, he threw more picks in that game against Houston than he did the entire regular season as a road favorite. And then last year against New England, couldn't get in the end zone once. It was just bad. We were looking at this, and this is a graphic we pulled up after they lost to the Patriots. It was like, dang, like, it feels like after they went up 27-0 on the Jaguars, like they barely scored at all. I want you to brace yourself for this. These have been the last, I believe, 29 drives of Justin Herbert's playoff career and how they've ended. Pull that graphic up right now. Like, that is, you can't make an argument that guy's a top 5 quarterback with this graphic. Last 20, for those that are listening to the podcast, Justin Herbert's last 29 drives in the playoffs have ended this way. Punt, field goal, punt, field goal, missed field goal, punt, field goal, punt, interception, punt, downs, punt, interception, touchdown, interception, punt, downs, field goal, punt, fumble, turnover on downs. What am I supposed to do that? I mean, at least Lamar Jackson, Dak are getting in the end zone occasionally in the playoffs. Josh Allen, for as much as I've ripped him for not being clutch in the playoffs, he's got the 13-second game. He had the game-winning drive against Jacksonville last year. I've got nothing to work with here. And he's had great coaching. He's had great defense. He's had good offensive lines. He's had fine weapons. And then in the totality of it all, again, you're like, Bryson, that's still bad, but he still can't be one of the worst playoff quarterbacks ever. No, he is. He is. If you look at quarterbacks the last quarter century that have started at least 3 games, worst passer ratings ever, look at who Justin Herbert's on the list with. Like, that's the company he's in right now. Only Andy Dalton has a worse passer rating in the playoffs in the last 25 years. Andy Dalton's got a 57 rating, and we all knew, Bengals, Andy Dalton, Marvin Lewis, they always, collapsed and fell short. Justin Herbert, second worst passer rating in playoff history of the last 25 years. Captain Checkdown Brad Johnson, better passer rating. Carson Palmer, better passer rating. Rex Grossman, who did make a Super Bowl, but that wasn't, because of him. Better passer rating in the postseason than Justin Herbert. So essentially, it's like you get star-level quarterback in the regular season, and then you get Andy Dalton in the postseason. Like that's what you get. And so it's kind of, I said this last year with Buffalo, and they ended up coming up short to Denver. It's like, if not now, when? Like, the Broncos have a great roster. They added Jalen Waddle. Sean Payton's still there. But Bo Nix is coming off a major injury. So's Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs. Kelsey's getting older. Chris Jones getting older. What's the receiving core look like? Is Andy Reid's scheme outdated? And then the Raiders, they're developing. I think they're going the right direction, but they're not there yet. The path is clear for you. Not saying it won't be, difficult. It's still a tough division, the AFC West, but you should have the best roster. You should be, all things considered, Justin Herbert should be the best quarterback in that division this year. Like, the Chargers should be a top 2, top 3 seed at worst in the conference this season. And so I am really, really, really curious to see, because the narratives have persisted around Dak and Lamar and Josh Allen for kind of coming up short in the playoffs. I'm really curious to see if Justin Herbert gets a sliver of the criticism that those guys have gotten. Because when Herbert loses the playoffs, it's always everybody else's fault. It's the offensive line. Oh, it's the coach. It's the defense. It's the weapons. When does it fall number 10? Because I see one common denominator in those 3 playoff losses, and it's that guy. Who's incredibly talented, who's got a monster arm, who moves well, who's big, all of those things. By the way, he's a really chill guy. He's with Madison Beer. Like, we all love Justin Herbert. But he's a horrible playoff quarterback. Horrible. One of the worst we've ever seen. Golden opportunity to prove us wrong this year. Upgraded OC. Jim Harbaugh's there. Great defense, weapons, great O-line, running game. The other 2 good quarterbacks in the division are coming off injuries. What you going to do? We'll see. Looks like we got some comments. Let's see. Patrick Brown is talking about Carson Wentz. 2017 version of Carson Wentz is the last time he was ever remotely good. Remember, he was in the MVP conversation and blew his knee. St. Nick Foles, I think is what it means, is more beloved in Philly than deer in the headlights. Yeah, that's, to say the very least. I mean, they've got a statue. They got a freaking statue of Nick Foles. They basically built a shrine in the locker room. Smokey _707 has some thoughts. Gotta make everything political. Almost as laughably pathetic as your Pixar voice, Seeth, Diaper Sniper Seeth. You as well, sir. Patrick, Seahawks re-signing Leonard Williams, another former Jet who got out of New York and experienced meaningful football and won a Super Bowl. I saw a stat, and I know he's, not 25 or under. I saw a crazy stat, or a crazy list. It was ranking, I think, like the 25 best players in the NFL under the age of 25. And the Seahawks had like 3 of those, or maybe 2. I think it was like Jackson Smith-Njigba, Devon Witherspoon, and I forget who else. It wasn't Gray Zabel, the center. Like, it was... Maybe it's because Darnold, as good as he is not in that upper echelon of elite quarterbacks. Maybe it's because the Rams in division, A, came close to beating him last year, and B, made the additions they made. I don't know if I can remember a defending Super Bowl champion getting this level of disrespect going into the next season. I really don't. It's like, okay, they did lose Kenneth Walker, they did lose Clint Kubiak and members of their secondary. I get that. Darnold's still there, still got a good O-line. I still think it's Seattle. They're going to run the football effectively. You still got Smith-Njigba, you got Rashid Shaheed. Defensively, you still got Leonard Williams and Ernest Jones and DeMarcus Lawrence and Witherspoon. Like, you're still really... Mike McDonald's probably the best defensive coach in football. Like, I mean, Seattle's going to be a playoff team next year. Like, not spoil one of my picks. I got Seattle in the playoffs. Feels kind of disrespectful to me, the way they've been discussed. Patrick, year 7 for Justin Herbert, a sense of urgency to win now. If you can't make it work with Mike McDaniel, what needs to give? I saw a funny tweet last night, speaking of McDaniel. It was showing the highlight of the touchdown throw to Quentin Johnston. And it said, imagine you're Mike McDaniel. And, you turn Tua from bust to, like, Pro Bowler. To, like, Tua, there were moments the last few years, like, he's in MVP discussions. but he could not throw the ball deep to save his life. It's like, oh, now you get this? Now you got this dude who's got a freaking missile for an arm? Like, we talk about the best arm quarterbacks in the league. Josh Allen's got an arm. Mahomes got an arm. Even I'm back. I was like, Joe Milton, I will die on this hill, is the best arm in football. Like, he's ridiculous. Herbert's in the top 5, easily. No question about it. So, and Patrick also says, I'd be curious if the Chargers were still in San Diego, would Herbert have equal success as Phillip Rivers? I mean, listen, Phillip Rivers, went to an AFC Championship game. I believe that was in 2007. That was when he played with a torn ACL. They had some good regular seasons, had some brutal playoff loss one year, I believe to New England. Was that 2006? I think that was. That was the last Schottenheimer year, Marty Schottenheimer year, God rest his soul. And then at the end of his career, Phillip won a couple of playoff games against Cincinnati in 2013 and against the Ravens in 2018. But, there were some rough years in between. And I don't think the city would necessarily make that much of an impact, so to speak, because, you go from San Diego to Los Angeles, climate-controlled, situation with SoFi. I mean, thus far, the Chargers have had a few great quarterbacks, obviously, in Dan Fouts, Phillip Rivers, Justin Herbert. Like, I think Rivers still has Drew Brees was still there, but was there for a bit, but his greatness was obviously in New Orleans. I still think Phillip Rivers is still comfortably the best quarterback they've had. But if Herbert can have success in the playoffs, if he can win them their first Super Bowl, perhaps. Okay. Maybe we got a different discussion. Patrick, 2006 was with the Chargers was LT's MVP year and Rivers' finer seasons. Yeah, LT was a monster back in 2006. All right, we're going to take a quick break. A couple of interesting stories. The NFL canceled the Pro Bowl games. Thank God. We'll talk about that in just a second. And the Falcons quarterback situation, we just talked about Tua. We'll talk about him again. It's just weird, but also could maybe benefit them this season. Talk about that in just a minute, Carving Up Live. But before we go to break, or I guess during the break, episode 5 of the 21 greatest players of the 21st century, ranking the 17th greatest player of the 21st century in the NBA. That is out now on YouTube. Don't go anywhere just yet. But after the show's over, once you want to leave, check out episode 17, which is on Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd, to me, the 17th greatest player of the 21st century. That episode is out now on YouTube, as well as 18 through 21. So while we go to break, check out the promo for the 21 greatest players of the 21st century. Basketball barbershop talk often centers around who's the greatest of all time. Is it LeBron or is it Jordan? Or who's the greatest big man ever? Would you like somebody with the longevity of someone like Kareem, or would you like somebody with the pure dominance like a Shaquille O'Neal? Or on that note, is Steph Curry better than Magic Johnson? Can we have that discussion? Cut it out, because I want to reframe the conversation. Matter of fact, I want to start a new one. The NBA is 80 years old and going as strong as ever. And the biggest reason for that is the unprecedented talent that the league has produced since the turn of the millennium. From the dominant big guys, Bryant, to shot, to the little guards making big shots.
Curry, way downtown, bang, bang, oh, what a shot from Curry!
Or the do-it-all wings, who control absolutely everything on the floor.
LeBron James with no regard for human life.
This game has seen some true icons in the last 26 years. Certainly, I have nothing but the utmost respect for the all-time greats that came before. After all, they paved the way for future generations to compete at the highest level on the floor and show the world what they're capable of doing. But over the course of this series, I want to highlight the greatest players that we've seen in recent years, the ones who have shaped where the game is today and will continue to shape it for the future greats to come. So without further ado, let's get right into it. These are the 21 greatest players of the 21st century. Yes, once again, welcome back to Carving Up Live on this Friday morning. Again, you can check out 21 greatest players of the 21st century. We've been doing it, releasing it every Friday. Once football season starts, which to me, I guess when college starts, college football, I know we got some games this week in week 0. I think you got a game in, is it Ireland, between TCU and North Carolina? So that'll be an interesting game to watch. But college football, really, week 1 is next Saturday, and then the NFL starts a few days after that, officially week 1 in the NFL. So we'll take a little bit of a hiatus on the 21 greatest players. We're going to have this thing kind of draw out over the course of the NBA season, but this is kind of like a preview. So players 17 through 21 is officially available on YouTube. It's on a playlist. You can check it out, ranking the 21 greatest players of the 21st century. We'd greatly appreciate if you did. It's been fun to make, fun to kind of look over recent NBA history. So, yeah, definitely feel free to check it out. We still got 16 more guys to go, so we got plenty of time to catch up. Okay, so great news and much needed news in the NFL yesterday. So the Pro Bowl's dead. It is officially gone, never to be seen again. Now, guys will still be named Pro Bowlers, like the top three, quarterbacks in the AFC. Let's say it's Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. Like, they'll be Pro Bowlers. So, and the NFL announced, like, even the Pro Bowl games, like the whole Pro Bowl week, traveling to wherever it is, whether it's used to be in Hawaii, and then it was in Orlando. Like, I think it was in Vegas recently. Like, they're just canceling it completely. Like, screw the Pro Bowl. We're done. Nobody watches it. Although I did see a stat that I think it was the last Pro Bowl games averaged like 6 million people watching. The average Sunday Night Baseball broadcast, half that. So it's like a game that doesn't mean anything. Like, guys aren't even going full speed. Like, it's a joke what the Pro Bowl turned into. People still watching that more than baseball, than NBA regular season game. Like, it's ridiculous. It's again, the NFL's got the power. And one of the reasons why the NFL's been so successful and why you've seen this just explosion in popularity the last, I guess, decade, it feels like the ratings have just gone up, is not just because the NFL is the easiest team sport to watch on television. It's not just because there is a sense of urgency, like, hey, there's 17 games, not 82 or 162. Like, every single game holds significant weight toward the playoff picture. So much of it, and people blast Goodell. I'm not saying Goodell's perfect and he hasn't made mistakes. He's the best commissioner in sports. He just is. I mean, Kathy Engelbert is, like, incompetent in the WNBA. They've got to get a new commissioner there. Adam Silver's taken some flack for a number of reasons. Manfred, I used to be critical of. I actually think some of the changes he's made to baseball last few years have been much needed. Pitch clock, banning the shift, bigger bases. Like, it's been better for the sport. Goodell's the best commissioner in sports. He just is. This is a guy who understands, I think, better than any other commissioner, that the NFL, that football in general, is a form of entertainment. It is, how can we make the game as entertaining as possible to fans, introduce new fans, like, again, partnering in a cultural sense, partnering with Jay-Z to get better halftime performers, halftime show ratings have gone up, and then as far as, rule changes, and then people have kind of gotten, oh my gosh, roughing the passer rules are ridiculous. Have they overcorrected? Perhaps. But that beats Aaron Rodgers going down. Like, about 10 years ago, there was a period where Aaron Rodgers was getting hurt and Tony Romo was getting hurt, and like the best quarterbacks weren't available. The low hit on the quarterback was banned after Tom Brady blew his ACL in the first game of the season in 2008. It's like, we got to have Tom Brady out there. It's like, you want to have the forward-facing guys available and healthy and playing in the biggest games. And the NFL, I think, more than any other league, has quickly adjusted. They're not necessarily, controlled by the fans, so to speak, but they very much listen to what the fans are saying. And the fans for years, like, I don't know what a catch is anymore. Like, I don't know. You had Calvin Johnson, then you had Des Bryant, then you had Jesse James. Like, what the heck is it? I don't know what a catch is. And the NFL is like, okay, one of the basic aspects of our game, catching the football, that cannot be ambiguous. That cannot be a question in the minds of our fans. Like, it should be pretty black and white. Did you have it? Full possession, 2 feet down, or if it's touchdown, to get the ball over the goal line. Like, it should be black and white. And the NFL eventually, like, in the middle of Super Bowl 52, Eagles-Patriots, there was a play. It was actually the game-winning touchdown, technically. Nick Foles to Zach Ertz. The play looked pretty darn similar to the Jesse James play for the Steelers that happened earlier that season. And the NFL was like, we're not going to do this again. And Steelers fans are, like, pissed about it, obviously, but we're not going to do that. Like, that's a catch. Like, go back and watch Jesse James in December, Zach Ertz in February. Very similar. That's a catch. And then that offseason, they officially outlawed the Calvin Johnson rule. Like, it's like, this is stupid. They outlawed the Tuck rule. Like, guys, Tom fumbled. Like, by the letter of the law, it was an incomplete pass. Tom Brady fumbled against the Raiders in 2001. That's not a question. They've been good at this. And they've understood, like, no one cares about the Pro Bowl. Like, a personal story, many of you know, a year and a half ago, I was in the Disney College program. Lived in Orlando, had a time of my life. It was amazing. Worked with some amazing human beings. Early in my program, the Pro Bowl games were in Orlando, and like it was like Peyton Manning and Eli Manning were coaching. It was basically a flag football game, and honestly, that's an insult to flag football because it wasn't even that good. And Disney had an initiative or had like a little thing where if you were in the college program or worked at Disney, whatever, like you could get free tickets. Like, whoa, free tickets to the Pro Bowl. I'm like, I'm good. Like, and I even kind of watched a little bit on TV. Like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't travel all the way out to I think it's Camping World Stadium in Orlando. Like, I'm this is a waste of my time. I'm not doing this. I'm not because we know traveling to games, you got to kind of make a day out of it. I'm not making a day out of this crap. Like, it's not good. And so, and people, I think Shannon Sharp, shout out to Shannon Sharp, Club Shay Shay and Nightcap. But, Shannon Sharp was like, you guys screwed up the Pro Bowl. Again, I've talked about this with the NBA All-Star Game, but it really applies to the Pro Bowl. If you're a player, you're about to go into the offseason, man, I'm not trying to hurt somebody or hurt myself and jeopardize money. Like, we know, NFL contracts are not NBA contracts. NBA contracts are fully guaranteed, right? NFL, that's not the case. Like, you got to be healthy, you got to be available, and like so much of this league and player value can change in an instant. Whether it's an injury, whether it's a bad season, whatever the case may be, you do not want to jeopardize that. It's again, in some ways, now this is from a coach, but why Sean McVay just, again, has basically killed the preseason. It's like, we don't want our season to end before the games even count. Now, if you get hurt in training camp, that just sucks, but you got to have training camp. We're not playing games that don't matter. And the Pro Bowl doesn't matter and hasn't for a while. And also, too, I think what was also a big factor in this decision for the NFL is not just that the fans hate it, not just because like the game was so bad, then they had to go to like a week where they had like dodgeball and flag football. It was a mess. They're like, let's just get rid of this entirely. Also the fact it's because so many guys were pulling out of the Pro Bowl, whether it's either guys that were in the Super Bowl or due to injuries or due to the fact like I just really don't want to do it because it's kind of dumb at this point. You've had some, ironically, all of them in the AFC. For whatever reason, all of them in the AFC. Some just like laughably bad and embarrassing Pro Bowl alternates. Like there's been a joke like, Shedeur Sanders, like once Shedeur Sanders made the Pro Bowl, it's like, okay, we got to get rid of this thing. This is a joke. But Shedeur's bad. Like he's not a bad player, but Shedeur as a Pro Bowl, like that's a joke. But then you go down the list and it's like, Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was a Pro Bowler last year. Okay? Drake May. You're like, Drake May? Of course he's a Pro Bowler. Yeah, last year when he's almost the MVP, of course he's a Pro Bowler. The year prior to that, rookie Drake May, he was fine. But are these selling Pro Bowl numbers to you? 15 touchdowns, 10 picks, and a 3-9 record? Pro Bowl alternate. Russell Wilson, who currently works for CBS, 2 years ago was a Pro Bowler. Remember his one season in Pittsburgh? I remember it well. I'm a Steelers fan. His one season in Pittsburgh. Pro Bowler. Like, what? Russell Wilson? Not Seattle Russ. Pittsburgh Russ, okay? Gardner Minshew was a Pro Bowler. Tyler Huntley, who's a backup, was a Pro Bowler in 2022. Mac Jones, the year prior to that, was a Pro Bowler. Was out there doing the gritty in Vegas. It's like, and that's just quarterbacks. Like, guys, we got to stop this. Like, it's cleaner for NFL history. You have your three, like, again, we're talking about quarterbacks, but it's cleaner where in the NFC it's Stafford, Dak, Sam Darnold. Like, those are your three Pro Bowl quarterbacks. No questions asked. They get Pro Bowler on their resume, and that's that. Like Drake May, on his resume, it says two-time Pro Bowler. He's really a one-time Pro Bowler. He'll make more, obviously. He's an excellent player. Shouldn't have made it his rookie year. Russell Wilson, darn sure shouldn't have made it 2 years ago. Tyler Huntley is a Pro Bowler for all time, all of NFL history, unless they rescind it. So, for NFL history's sake, for this was kind of a discussion years ago, but like the safety aspect of it, like that's kind of been settled a while ago. And also just for the NFL prides itself on being an entertaining television product, and the Pro Bowl is the worst the league has to offer. Like the preseason is more entertaining. It's like at least it's real football. Maybe backups, but it's real football players, and they're playing the game. So good for the NFL for like, guys, let's just get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. I think I did see where they're going to have like some sort of celebration. Like, I don't know if it's like a dinner or something, like get the Pro Bowls together. Like, yeah, sure. There should be some sort of special kind of honor that comes with that. Like it's not easy to make the Pro Bowl, but yeah, that's where we're at. Got some Comments, Patrick Brown. Last Pro Bowl I watched. Oh, who could forget this? The late, great Sean Taylor leveled an AFC punter, and it took place in Hawaii. It was a different time. Players took the competition to heart. They did, but honestly, and I'm not knocking those guys, the guys for years past. There's also an element of guys understand the business of their bodies now more than they ever have. And that goes in a lot of sports, but especially in the NFL. It's like, God, if I blow my ACL or something, it's like I'm going to lose all of next season because I played in a meaningless exhibition game. Like, why would I do that? Patrick Brown, Pro Bowl, NBA All-Star Game of old meant something. Guys talk trash, jaw jacked, and still had fun. It's long overdue to nix the entire event. Your thoughts on Major League Baseball winning free agency to mimic the NBA and NFL? Can it help the sport as well? Possibly. We've talked about Major League Baseball the last couple of weeks, or certainly last week with the Mark Walter situation, and could there be a lockout, and what happened? Like, the Dodgers just got swept by Atlanta. Like, the Dodgers are having kind of a rough second half of the season, so maybe they don't three-peat. And I genuinely think that will affect how the CBA goes. I'm not against it. I mean, NFL, NBA free agency seem to go, pretty fine. The only thing that hurts NBA free agency is the stupid second apron, but it's still, it's like this NBA free agency was fun. This offseason was fun. Giannis got traded. Braun went to Philadelphia. You had a number of other guys. So Jaylen Brown got traded. So I think that'd be good for baseball. Let's not bring up the Dez call at one of the more horrible moments of my Cowboys fandom. Yeah, that's, again, it's one of the worst calls in playoff history. Like, by the letter of the law, it's not a catch, which I think even by the letter of that dumb law, like, I still think it was a catch. But just by common sense, it's obviously a catch. Remember the replacement refs who screwed up Seattle and Green Bay catch on MNF? Oh, who could forget the Fail Mary? I'm still jealous of Patrick for getting this nickname before I did. Whack Jones is a Pro Bowler made me laugh until I cried. It's like, what are we doing? Wax Gritty. Wax Gritty looked like a dead pigeon flapping its wings for more life. It was better. It actually wasn't bad. I get on Mac, like he's not terribly athletic. I've seen worse Gritties, okay? I'll just keep it. I can't do the Gritty. I can't. That's the, I may got a little motion, but I ain't got that kind of motion. So there you go. Okay, let's shift to Atlanta. The Falcons, that is. We don't talk a lot of Falcons on the show, but now it kind of applies. So, man, rough month if your name is Tua Tagovailoa. This has not been good. So obviously he's cut by the Dolphins, who pay him, I think, like, is it what, $55 million or something like that, something crazy, to not play for them. Tua then gets signed by the Falcons, 1-year deal. It's like he's probably going to be the starter. Penix is coming off an injury, hasn't looked that good the first 2 years. He's a veteran quarterback, can step in. He's got weapons, run game, offensive line, all of that. And as it's been kind of discussed, like, he's been in a competition with no one. Like, he's been the starting quarterback from day one. And then Kevin Stefanski a couple of days ago says, Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, he's like, yeah, it would be impossible right now to name Tua the starter. And then you find out that, again, as we talked about throughout the show, like, teams treat the preseason differently. Like, it's not a blanket set. Like, Sean McVay doesn't give a dang about the preseason. The Chiefs kind of do. The Bills kind of do. Like, Pittsburgh doesn't play Aaron Rodgers because he's getting up there in age, but, like, Mike McCarthy will play some of the starters in the preseason. And you see the news that Tua is not going to play the last preseason game for Atlanta, which is tonight. By the time this clip is on social media, the game will already been played. Falcons at Miami. Penix is going to start. Michael Penix Jr. is going to start. So for Tua, we're getting into a space. I'm not going to go so far as to say where it's like the Deshaun Watson aspect, where it's like, okay, once Cleveland eventually once they're able to move off Deshaun without a serious financial hardship, so to speak, I'm not sure Deshaun has a place in the NFL. A, he's not good anymore. B, he's toxic in the locker room as a leader, and in terms of just the really disturbing baggage that he carries around him and the lack of accountability. Like, I'm not sure Deshaun has a place in the NFL post-Cleveland. Listen, I got on him last year. I stand by what I said in the sense that, okay, when he's going to the press conference after playing poorly and he's blaming his teammates, he's like, hey, bad snap by the center. Hey, bad route by Tyreek Hill. Hey, we should have called plays better. It's like, buddy, point thumbs, not fingers. Like, this is the quarterback position is the ultimate one where it's everybody else's fault when you win, or it's everybody else's, credit when you win. If you lose, like, hey, it's on me. I got to be better. And Tua, to me, last year and the last couple of years has not shown that. Other than that, And he's smart. Like, one of the reasons he was so successful in Alabama is being able to quick read, quick decision make. And when you're somebody that doesn't have a ridiculously great arm, you got to be good at that. Like, no one's better in the NFL at that than Joe Burrow. Getting the ball out of his hands quick, because Joe's not that mobile. Joe doesn't have the biggest arm. Joe also has a bad offensive line, so he also has to, be efficient, get the ball out of his hands quickly. Tua obviously isn't Joe Burrow. Same draft, he's not Joe Burrow. But to see the 2 years prior to Mike McDaniel, this is why I defended McDaniel a little bit in Miami last year. Like, yeah, I know he's maybe kind of corny, and people are like, he's, he doesn't give Dan Campbell vibes, so to speak. I think the guy can coach. There's just too many limitations to the roster, and it's a bad front office in Miami. When you see two of the 2 years prior to Mike McDaniel, and then you saw him in that first preseason game the Falcons played, it's like, oh my God. Like, I mean, he the first couple of years of Miami, it's like, okay, he's maybe a backup. And then now it's like, he's dropping the snap. And a lot of it too is, okay, the concussions, that's got to play factor in the sense that he's trying to, have a quality, quality of life post NFL career. So he's not one to get hit. Understandably so. I don't know why the guy won't wear a guardian cap, but that's neither here nor there. So for Tua, I hate it. This could be good long-term for the Falcons. Because if Michael Penix ends up being the starter, he's going to start this next preseason game against Miami. Hopefully for his sake, he plays well. This would kind of be the best case scenario, as crappy as that is to say, like when it comes to with Penix being the starter. Because we can look at what Penix has been. He hasn't played that much at all through his first 2 years. You think about that 2024 quarterback class, it's like Caleb, okay, Chicago's got their guy. Washington, if Jaden's healthy, and that's a big if, he's been beat up a lot. If he's healthy, they've got their guy. New England, they've got their guy Drake May. Broncos, they've got their guy Bo Nix. It's Minnesota and Atlanta. It's like, okay, we probably messed up. Minnesota has already told you that by signing Kyler, and now J.J. McCarthy splitting backup reps with Wentz. And now in Atlanta, you're starting to have doubts about Michael Penix Jr. So we can show you his numbers in his career. Like, first of all, again, he hasn't been on the field that much. But a 4-8 record, 12 touchdowns, 6 picks. He's not even completing 60% of his throws. He's not even throwing for 200 pass yards a game, 84 rating. And again, he's only played 12 of possible 34 games. Now, some of that's because he sat out most of his rookie season because Kirk Cousins was there. They wanted to, develop him. But a lot of that's injuries from last year. He hasn't been terribly durable. And again, he's coming off, a third knee injury here, going back to his college career. And so, to a much lesser degree, he's obviously not as good as Justin Herbert. But we were talking about earlier, no excuses for Justin Herbert. You've kind of got as good of a situation as you can have in a salary cap situation. The Falcons aren't paying Penix anything. And when you look at Atlanta, it's a pretty good situation. I would actually argue it's a better situation than it was last year because I think Raheem Morris is an excellent DC. He's a kind of below average head coach. Kevin Stefanski, regardless of what Browns fans and Shedeur sycophants will say, I still think Kevin Stefanski can coach. He's gotten the playoffs twice in Cleveland. You can coach if you can do that. So offensive coach who gets the most out of his quarterbacks, and then you've got maybe the best running back in football in Bijan Robinson. You've got Kyle Pitts who, hey, maybe, just maybe, Kyle Pitts will reach some semblance of the success he was expected to have coming out of Florida in 2021. Like Kyle Pitts at the end of last year, like, whoa, there's Kyle Pitts. There's the guy that everyone's drafting high in their fantasy draft. And then you've got Drake London, like big, physical, strong receiver. Good O-line in Atlanta. Like, I'm not saying the Falcons should win the NFC South. It's a bad division. Wouldn't shock me if they did. They should have a top 10 offense. They just should. Good offensive coach, good tight end, good number one receiver, unbelievable running back, and a good O-line. And again, it's not like the division is murderer's row. This isn't the AFC West or the NFC West. Like it's Tampa with the Baker situation with his contract. Carolina, was that a fluke? I don't think so, but was that a fluke? We'll see. The Saints, okay, they're kind of built. Like that division's begging to be won by somebody. Atlanta can be that team. I'm seeing a lot of people predicting the Falcons to be awful this year. Yeah, if Tua is a starter, they'll probably be in last. If Penix starts and is healthy, like I'm not saying they will. They can win the division. But at this point, it's, again, for Tua's sake, it's like, will he get another opportunity elsewhere if it doesn't work out in Atlanta? Possibly. But because of the durability concerns, because of the fact that he's not, as physically gifted as you want your quarterbacks to be, doesn't have a big arm, doesn't move that well. Again, the durability concerns, the concussions. the fact that he's clearly was a product of Mike McDaniel and that's it. Hoping the best for the guy, but this is looking so good. But for Atlanta, you're kind of hoping that, that Michael Penix Jr. can finally evolve into being that guy. We talk about that year 2 jump. This is kind of the year 2 for Penix. It's year 3, but he only started, I think, 3 games as a rookie. So, barely at all. He started, what was it? 8 games last year? Something like that. Last year, then Kirk Cousins came in because he got hurt and what have you. This is kind of that year two for Michael Penix. Caleb Williams, year 2 jump. Drake May, year 2 jump. Bo Nix was good as a rookie, got better in his second year. You're hoping that for Penix. Got some comments. Patrick, so Kevin Stefanski dealt with QB madness in Cleveland. Now it's the wash, rinse, repeat in Atlanta. 2 left-handed quarterbacks who have injury issues and wasting a season. I think Stefanski's mindset is, it's quarterback chaos. I don't think it's as bad as it was in Cleveland, but it's not ideal. But he's like, okay, 2 is on 1-year deal. We can move off him after this year. And if Penix doesn't show that growth, okay, we'll draft somebody next year. But because he didn't inherit, he inherited Penix. He didn't draft him. It's not like he's tied to this guy. Patrick, over under for how many games will Penix Jr. play before Tua takes over? If Tua flops, who's the third string quarterback? I have no clue who the third string quarterback is. Is it somebody know? Is Heineke on that roster? Oh, Cooper Rush. How about that? Cooper Rush is actually on the Falcons roster. Now, maybe he'll get cut and he'll sign with somebody else, but listen, Cooper Rush has won the games in the NFL. So, maybe that wouldn't be worst case scenario, but it's not like Atlanta has this ridiculously high ceiling. I think Stefanski's mindset is, or to answer your first question, Patrick, over under how many games he'll play. The games he misses, I don't think it's going to be because he's just horrible. I think it's maybe because he's injured. Listen, I love Penix coming out of Washington. But the kid's had a lot of injuries, and it sucks for him because I love his arm, good pocket presence. I liked what I saw from him at Washington. And you've seen signs here and there. I remember there was a game 2 years ago, and the Commanders have a bad defense, but it was a Sunday night game against Washington where it's whoa, okay, there's the guy you were kind of expecting to see coming from the Pacific Northwest, and he just hasn't shown you that consistently. If he misses games, unfortunately, I think it'll be because of injury, and it's not like I think Tua will be that much better. So, over under, if you're asking for a specific number, I'm hoping it's in the double digits. I'm just pulling for the kid. 9.5. Not somewhere right in the middle. I would probably bet the over, but it's certainly not a home run bet. Patrick says, I feel for Bijan, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts. It'll be a wasted season going through 2 lefties who can't lead anyone out of the Georgia Dome parking lot. I think Penix is a decent leader from what I've heard, but and by the way, they haven't played in the Georgia Dome in a minute. Mercedes, I've never watched a game from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I've seen it. It is, holy cow, that place is unbelievable. I'm trolling the Falcons because their new stadium is a home disadvantage. If you have to use fake noise in order to distract opponents, you're not a serious team. Yeah, we've seen, and that's been the case in some new stadiums. It's really been the case in Vegas where certain fan bases will take over. It's even happened in SoFi with the Rams. It really happens with the Chargers. Steelers fans will take over, Niners fans, Cowboys fans, if you're popular nationwide, you'll take over Vegas and LA and Atlanta, which is kind of weird. But that's where we're at. I've been critical of Bryce Young as an undersized quarterback, but they may win the NFC South back-to-back. I have some faith in Bryce over the 2 quarterbacks who'll be throwing hospital balls. That's one thing, too, is Tua puts his receivers in some pretty dangerous situations. Okay, so when we come back, kind of a fun segment, and that's rare to say, a fun segment when you're talking about American national politics. But sometimes in the situation we're in right now, you just got to take moments to chuckle a little bit and to do what you can to lighten the mood. And directly, indirectly, the president did that with the Truth Social post, and we'll talk about that. It's a topic I care deeply about, and the list he made that we'll discuss after the break is the worst I've ever seen on this particular subject. We'll get to that in 1 minute on Carvey Up Live. back to Carving Up Live. So, as y'all know, this is majority. I was talking to somebody yesterday about this. Like, Carving Up is like 80 to 85% sports, like 10 to 15% politics, and then 5% like entertainment and what's going on, and you know, in music and television and movies and what have you. Like to incorporate more of that. I'd like to. We're hoping to maybe get a guest on the show after the Emmys in a couple of weeks, which should be interesting to kind of break that down. So yeah, definitely stay tuned for that. We're trying to make this, again, it's primarily a sports show, but we're trying to also kind of branch out a little bit and appeal to as many audiences as we can. Because listen, we're a big tent. We want to include everybody. So of course we occasionally discuss politics on this show. And one segment that doesn't exactly get a lot of clicks per se, at least on my channel, but is a subject I've always, literally for my entire life, been fascinated with, is American history, particularly presidential history. Love it. I've literally got a book on every single president. Like, I love it. And as he is one to do, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, when fit hits the shan in the country, both domestically and abroad, as it is, he tends to throw out some sideshows, particularly on Truth Social. Like, it'll be weird AI videos. It'll be just take your guess about something weird. You know, trademarking or parroting like Cars, the movie Cars, or children's shows like the Magic School Bus, MAGA edition. Weird stuff. We obviously wouldn't do topics on those because who the heck cares? I do kind of care about this one. The president put out a tiers list, right? Like rankings, something based on tiers of American presidents. And I've seen some bad lists. I have seen quite a few. This is unmatched, man. It is the single worst list I've ever seen when it comes to ranking. Like, it is the worst I've ever seen. We'll go and show. This is the post. This is what he... So, obviously, he had himself at the top in the tier, the greatest. Okay, we don't even want to give that the time of day. In the great category. And we'll go category by category. We're not going to break down every president, obviously. That would take forever. But the ones that are just cartoonishly bad rankings. So he's got Lincoln, Washington, FDR. That's not even a debate. He's got Thomas Jefferson in there. Yeah, I'd put him in the great category. Louisiana Purchase wasn't bad. So Jefferson was a scummy guy, but by and large, pretty good president. The other two that he has in the great tier, I don't even know how to wrap my head around those. He has Woodrow Wilson as a great president. Now, oddly, Wilson has mid to late 20th century was known as a great president. I think as people have kind of studied history more through the lens of modern times and also even through that time, like, oh, this guy was, for one, a cruddy human being and also a terrible president. So Woodrow Wilson, great president, yes. Woodrow Wilson, yeah. The guy that segregated the federal government, yeah, that's a great president. The guy who fought, there's a great book about this, I'm forgetting the name of it off the top of my head. It was a great book about Wilson's fight against women's suffrage during his presidency. He fought tooth and nail for women not to have the right to vote. Promised, this Trump would know a thing or two about what I'm about to say next. When Wilson ran for re-election in 1916, his whole campaign platform was based on, literally, this was the campaign pledge. He kept us out of war. World War I's going on at this point. And guess what the United States did 1 month into his second term? We got into the war. So blatantly, like, Wilson knows we are going to war if I get reelected. And he just lies blatantly about that. Again, something else Trump and other things too. But no wars. He's the anti-war president. Yeah, it's going great in Iran right now, isn't it? Also the fact, Wilson was anti-free speech. So, okay, he was racist. Oh, also showed Birth of a Nation, which was a pro-KKK film. Not ideal. So he was incredibly racist, did not believe women should have the right to vote, blatantly lied about getting us into a war so that he could get reelected, which he was barely, signed the espionage acts, the Sedition Espionage Acts, which made it a crime to criticize the federal government during wartime. So he's anti-free speech too, but he's in the great tier. Now, oddly, there's some similarities between Wilson and Trump. Both saw and see themselves as like messianic figures. Both Yeah, well, both are racist. Wilson's more racist than Trump, and Trump's racist. Wilson is cartoonishly racist. Both lied about getting their country into war. Both are pretty ardently against free speech. There are some similarities. The second one, pull that list back up on the far right side, is a guy I think Trump has actually called his favorite president, which is certainly a choice. Andrew Jackson. Okay. Someone else whose historical ranking has changed over time, Andrew Jackson. So, just the Trail of Tears alone is reason for Jackson not to be in the great tier of U.S. presidents. This guy signs, I think it was 1830, signs the Indian Removal Act, which evicted all Native American tribes west of the Mississippi because of territorial expansion post-Louisiana Purchase. So he forced the Native Americans to move. But like rounded up at gunpoint. This actually happened during Van Buren's administration, but it was Jackson's legislation. And I think it was like a quarter of the Cherokee tribe died en route. That's why they call it the Trail of Tears. So he signed into legislation a genocide, is what he did. And then economically, he was horrible. Horrible. It's like, oh, we were debt-free. Yeah, we were debt-free briefly, and then we went into a decade-long depression. Because this guy had this personal beef with the Bank of the United States, because he was buddies with Jackson's political rival, Henry Clay. He's like, we're going to shut down the bank. Yeah, how'd that work? A decade-long depression, which his protege, James K. Polk, basically had to fix. So no, Jackson was not a great president at all. Wilson damn sure wasn't a great president. So that's ridiculous. Then we go to the next tier of Trump's presidential rankings. You got four guys in the near great tier. Theodore Roosevelt, Grover Cleveland, John Adams, and James K. Polk. Now, Polk I agree with. Cleveland's not in there. We don't have time to get into Grover Cleveland. I just want to talk about two here. Theodore Roosevelt. So Theodore Roosevelt is not even in the great tier, according to Donald Trump. Theodore Roosevelt, who in my mind is the third greatest president we ever had. I go Lincoln, Washington, Theodore Roosevelt. Among other things, we don't have time. Like, you want to talk about a guy who had a ton of accomplishments. This guy's got a bunch. We're not going to go on all, we're going to the major ones. Among other things, saved $200 million of public, 200 million acres of public lands. That seems kind of important. So he's a conservationist. He signed the Pure Food and Drug Act, so, we wouldn't die when we ate food, or at least wouldn't, die as often as we did in the late 19th century, early 20th century. So made food safer to eat. He created the Panama Canal, which connected the Atlantic to the Pacific, and internationally strengthened America's position on the world stage. Like, America under Theodore Roosevelt, that's the first time we kind of become a world power. Like, this guy was a phenomenal, as good as it gets, other than Lincoln and Washington. And he's not even in the great tier, according to Trump. Like, he's at best, the 8th best president. What are we doing? So that's crazy. And then he's got John Adams in the near great tier. Now, I'll be honest. And when it comes to his career start to finish, I really admire John Adams a lot. I do. He was an amazing, incredible patriot, signer of the Declaration, opposed slavery when that was not a popular position to take. There's a lot I admire about John Adams. He wasn't that. He did keep us out of war with with France when that was an unpopular position to take. He did do that. Adams wasn't that good of a president. Like, he just was. I mean, if nothing else, the man signed, again, something Trump would probably admire, the Alien and Sedition Acts, which, again, similar to the Espionage Acts, Sedition Espionage Acts that Wilson signed, made it a crime to criticize the government. So Adams, who signed the Declaration of Independence, signed a piece of legislation that was completely anti-free speech. Probably the most anti-free speech legislation that's ever been signed in American history. Like, I like John Adams a lot. That's the black mark in his career. And he's in the near great. He's in the same tier as Theodore freaking Roosevelt. Insanity. Then we go to the next tier for Donald Trump. Average. Now, most of these I kind of agree with. Clinton, John Quincy Adams, James Monroe, Rutherford Hayes, James Madison, Van Buren, Taft, Chester Arthur, McKinley, Andrew Johnson, Herbert Hoover, Benjamin Harrison. Mind you, I just want to say this real quick before we get into the problem that I have with two of those. Maybe if you haven't noticed, this list that Trump made or someone on his staff made excludes 20% of the presidents. Like, they're just not on the list. So, William Henry Harrison, James Garfield, I'm not against that. Harrison was president for a month. Garfield was president for 6 months, really 4 months, because that's when he was shot. But he just completely excludes from his list Truman, Eisenhower, JFK, LBJ, Nixon, Ford, Reagan, and both Bushes. They're just not on the list. Like, how do you make a list ranking the presidents you don't include? What are we doing? The two guys, again, that I have a big issue with on the average tier that Trump has. First of which is Herbert Hoover. I don't put Hoover in like the bottom 5 the way some do, but Herbert Hoover was not an average. Herbert Hoover was a great humanitarian. Herbert Hoover was honestly one of the best, I think one of the greatest Americans of the first half of the 20th century. Herbert Hoover was a terrible president. Great Depression was not his fault. Started early in his administration. That is not his fault. It was really Coolidge's fault. But the policies and initiatives he set in place made it way worse. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, as tariffs these days tend to do, kills foreign trade. So it's like, the consumer prices in the United States just skyrocket, makes the Depression even worse. Prices go up, during the Depression. Then he also had, he at that point, this is pre-New Deal, pre-FDR, decides like, you know what we shouldn't do during a depression? Use federal aid. We shouldn't do that. Terrible aid. Why would we do that? So Hoover was a horrible president. And then on the average tier, also in the average tier, as bad as Hoover being on there is, Andrew Johnson being on that tier is a sin against American history. There's a legitimate argument that you can make that Andrew Johnson's the worst president we've ever had. I think he's like, I'd put him probably at the third worst. You can make a case he's the worst president we've ever had. And he's in the average tier? There's 2 tiers below Andrew freaking Johnson? Let's go over Andrew Johnson's presidency briefly, right? So he took office after Lincoln was assassinated. He vetoed virtually every single piece of legislation that aided the transition of newly freed slaves into freedom, into being American citizens. Whether it was the Freedman's Bureau, whether it was he opposed the passing of the 14th Amendment. So he was incredibly racist, did not believe black people should be citizens. Thankfully, again, the radical Republicans in Congress had more power than he did. They were able to pass these laws. And by the way, Reconstruction failed the way that it did. Segregation and Jim Crow happened for the next century the way that it did, in large part because of Andrew Johnson. Because of the fact that, yes, were we going to eventually bring the Confederacy back in the Union? Yes, of course. But he's like, yeah, quick acceptance. You're good. No problem here. You're back in the Union. Things are all as they should be. Let's go back to the old antebellum South. Which eventually, over time, leads to, I believe it was 1877, where Reconstruction basically ends and you got 100 years of Jim Crow. Where the South had no restrictions on laws that they could pass, restricting the basic rights of black Americans. You had the black codes, all of it. Andrew Johnson stood by and acquiesced, and in some cases encouraged this. So, in many ways, Jim Crow can be pointed back to him. And he's in the average tier? Again, you can make the case he's the worst president we've ever had. You can absolutely make that case. Next tier. The below average tier. John Tyler, Calvin Coolidge. I actually agree with Coolidge in the below average, to be honest. John Tyler, Calvin Coolidge, Millard Fillmore, Zachary Taylor, James Buchanan, Franklin Pierce. There are 3 of those that are absurd. Again, that indisputably belong in the failure tier, which we'll get into momentarily. So we had three horrible presidents in a row in the 1850s. Fillmore, Pierce, and Buchanan. Fillmore signed the Fugitive Slave Law of 1850, which meant that even in free states, if a slave escaped, even if they were in a free state, people in free states were forced by the law to return them back to their plantation, back to their master. He signed that law, and all he gets is below average? No, he's in the awful tier. He's in the bottom 5 presidents, bottom 6 presidents of all time. Franklin Pierce is even worse than him. Franklin Pierce signs the Kansas-Nebraska Act, right? What does that do? The Kansas-Nebraska Act, you got the new, you got the kind of that Missouri territory, Kansas-Nebraska territory that is, they want to decide for themselves whether they want to be slave state or free state, or at least that's what the legislation puts out there. He signs that into law. Guess what we get out of that? We get bleeding Kansas. We get basically the precursor for the Civil War out of that. Out of this piece of legislation. People are dying in the streets in the Kansas-Nebraska territory because you got the pro-slavery settlers, the antis, the abolitionists, fighting it out. Pierce caused that. And even worse than Pierce, you've got James Buchanan. Again, how in God's name Buchanan is not in the failure tier is beyond me. He is a guy that I think most consider the worst president in American history. Why is that? Well, first of all, he backed the Dred Scott decision by the Supreme Court in 1857, which ruled that black Americans were not citizens. So basically, they were saying black people weren't human, which that had been in, the Constitution for, since the beginning. But this all but solidified that in 1857. It's the worst Supreme Court ruling of all time. Buchanan backed that. And then also, the whole South seceding from the Union happened under Buchanan's watch, and he didn't do anything to stop it. He's like, well, they technically aren't allowed to secede, but we're not going to do anything to stop them because, what the heck? I'm about to leave office anyway. Who cares? Hands a mess over to Lincoln, which, by the way, he ends up having the greatest presidency ever because of it. Buchanan's not even in the failure tier. Neither is Pierce or Fillmore. Insanity. And then finally, we get to the failures. And this is, again, it's a joke. We're not going to go. There's one on this list that I agree with in the failure tier. Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Ulysses S. Grant, Warren Harding, Jimmy Carter. Harding is absolutely in the failure tier. Harding was a terrible president, corrupt president, frankly, an incompetent president. He's on this tier. Jimmy Carter was not a good president. I'd put him in probably the bottom 15 or so. He's not in the bottom 5. He's just not. Biden, I probably put in kind of that middle tier. I think there were some good pieces of legislation he passed, but also conflicts in the Middle East, pull out of Afghanistan. The fact that I think Biden's presidency led us directly to a second Trump presidency. It's a little too early to really rank where he's at, but he's not in the bottom 5. The two I want to talk about are Grant and Obama. Ulysses S. Grant. So he's a failure, right? Ulysses S. Grant destroyed the KKK. That's a good thing, right? He sent federal troops. So he comes after Andrew Johnson. So he inherits the mess of Reconstruction that Johnson handed him. To ensure the rights of black Americans would be protected, Grant sends federal troops to the South to protect black voters from voter intimidation from the old Confederacy and in some cases the KKK. So he's protecting black citizens. That's a good thing, right? Being able to help black Americans exercise their right to vote. That's a good thing. He also established the Department of Justice. That's good. He also established America's first national park, Yellowstone. That was Grant. So I know now Grant's also somebody, he's like the anti-Wilson in the sense that A, he wasn't as racist as Wilson. B, Wilson has kind of come down in the rankings as time has gone on. Grant's gone up. And by the way, both rightfully so. Putting him as, in essence, the third worst president in history, because Trump excluded 10 for some reason, is insanity. Insanity. And then you get to Obama. Okay. If you don't agree with Obama's policies, be my guest. That's your prerogative. You cannot say he's one of the 5 worst in history. Barack Obama, number 1, signed the Affordable Care Act. It's funny, these legislators in red states are really trying to make sure they protect their Obamacare subsidies for their citizens. So obviously it wasn't a bad piece of legislation. There needs to be more done to reform the healthcare system, but that was a good first step. Affordable Care Act. He did this thing that was, I think, pretty universally praised. He killed bin Laden. That's a good thing, right? Killed the most infamous terrorist who has the blood of thousands of Americans on his hands. That's a good thing. So killed bin Laden. He repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell in the military, which is objectively a good thing. And he saved America early in his presidency from falling into a depression. He inherits the Great Recession and passes some legislation, works with Congress to ensure we do not fall into a depression. I mean, it was the worst economic crisis we had seen since the Great Depression. He ensured we did not go further into that. So I'd put Obama into probably that 12 to 15, maybe higher area. He's only got Obama and Biden down there just because of the personal beefs like that. That's the only reason it's on there. But just wrapping this up, Trump says a lot of dumb, you know what? This up there. This is up there. This is truly the worst presidential rankings list I've ever seen in my life. Ever. Listen, I'm not God knows I'm no Doris Kearns Goodwin or John Meacham or anybody like that. I was the best when it comes to the historian class, so to speak. But as somebody who's, I would not consider an expert, that'd sound kind of arrogant, but I've studied this basically my entire life. This is the worst presidential rankings list I've ever seen. Ever. Buchanan, Pierce, Fillmore, and Johnson are not in your bottom 5. Johnson is in the average tier. Wilson is in the great tier. Obama's in the failure, like Grant's in the failure tier. Like, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? And, I mean, I guess we know why he's doing it, to distract from the disaster that's been his presidency. Also distract from the fact that there's some documents he doesn't want out there in public, but we won't go into that today. But there you go. And I did see this. Again, another distraction that Patrick points out. Now MAGA man wants to change Lake Ontario to Lake America. He did change it to Lake America. We all know the name, and you know what files. Never mind. Yeah, we know about the files. The Red Hat Mafia believes anything their Orange Mafia boss says. Everything aligns their finances with him and brags about it. He spends too much time reposting and attacking the media versus sleeping like a sane human being. Listen, you're not going to sleep much as president, but like the guy... To ask people who cover him closely, like they're like, no, the guy does not sleep, which is horrible. How this guy doesn't sleep, has a crappy diet, and doesn't exercise, and I don't even know how it's possible. Golf, repose, spew lies, and attack free speech. Attack late night talk show hosts, fire people. We're winning, right? Man, Patrick's on a roll right here. Long as people are loyal and push his agenda 24/7, 365, right-wing media bows down to him and makes sure they keep him happy. Narcissist to the fullest and not exaggerating. I saw, this was when the Senator Lindsey Graham passed, I guess, last month. And it was at Lindsey Graham's funeral. And Sean Hannity, we all know, Fox News, he's close with the president. And his eulogy to Lindsey Graham was like sad, not sad and like, oh man, Lindsey Graham died. No, sad in that he was like, oh my God, I have to appease the president while I'm eulogizing somebody else. He was like, Mr. President, I bet Lindsey Graham, when he went through the pearly gates, I bet it was a lot like Mar-a-Lago, Mr. President. Matter of fact, it may not have been as good as Mar-a-Lago, Mr. President. It's like, oh my God, dude, like have some pride. Like what? This is a joke. Patrick, he's ever so jealous of Barack Obama. He can't teach class, etiquette, humanity, and professionalism. Obama lives rent-free in Trump's head, no question. We've fallen so far behind as a country. Barack Obama can go anywhere, and people still all over his presence. Obama, in my humble opinion, is the GOAT president. He's definitely the GOAT president in my lifetime. Now, that's not saying much. I was born in 2003, so I got Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden, and then another Trump. So it's not the best class, so to speak. So easily of my lifetime. I will hear I think I did see for the first time, I think this was a couple of years ago, like C-SPAN had Obama in the top 10. I'll hear that argument. Matter of fact, if I were to go over and do a list, I'd probably have him there. I just think America would look vastly different if not for Abraham Lincoln. Like he's one of like those, like I don't think, first of all, I hope no one surpasses him because he had to deal with the greatest crisis in the country's history. And by the way, rose to the occasion. But, so if anyone's better than him, it's like, then we probably will have to gone through something even worse than the Civil War. And I don't think any of us wants that. Yeah, Patrick, we agree here, Patrick. We'll look back on his presidency and say, how did we manage to let this happen twice? He's been impeached twice, 34 felonies, multiple bankruptcies, failed marriages, insurrection, and a global pandemic. Among all of those, Patrick, I've said this for, I guess now 5 years. If January 6th, 2021 wasn't the deal breaker, then I don't know what was. I don't know what was or what could be. Like if a president going up there, denying the outcome of an election that he clearly lost, but then saying, hey, let's go over to the Capitol and intimidate these lawmakers. And then once you said that to your supporters that are armed, like, what do you think they're going to do? Tearing up the streets, and people are like, oh, well, he didn't explicitly say to go and tear up the Capitol and break windows and beat up cops. He didn't explicitly say, here's what I know. He's the most active social media president that we've had in the social media era. Like, no one would deny that. Radio silence for 3 hours. He said nothing. Like, he'll go through, he'll tweet or truth or whatever throughout the night for, like, literally all night long. It'll be like 50-something posts in a row. Oh, but you got nothing to say when the Capitol's being ransacked and lawmakers are running for their lives. You got nothing to say when you told them to go over there, by the way. If that wasn't a deal breaker, I don't know what was. Like, he can get away with anything. So, that's a wrap. So, yeah, long story short, as somebody who loves and cares deeply about presidential history, it's the worst list I've ever seen. And it's not just because he's at the top. Of course he's got himself at the top. He's the greatest that ever did anything ever. But, yeah. And then he just excludes he excludes every president with the exception of Carter from Truman to the first Bush, and then excludes W. It's like, if he put this together, someone else put this together, you don't know jack diddly about American history. You dang sure shouldn't be running the country. All right, that is all the time I have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by, as always. Special episode of Carving Up Live coming on Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time in the mornings. I am going to be making my 2026 NFL predictions, going through all 8 divisions. Who's going to the playoffs? Who's missing it? Award winners, MVP, Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year, all of that. And, of course, postseason predictions. Who's going to the Super Bowl? Who's winning the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 61 in Los Angeles, in Inglewood, California at SoFi Stadium? I cannot wait. It's one of my favorite shows of the year. We'll do NFL predictions on Monday and college football predictions on Wednesday. Both shows, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time. We hope you'll stop by. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody. Please follow all social media platforms, Instagram, X, TikTok. Follow me on Twitch as well. Subscribe to Carving Up with Bryson Carver, as well as the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network. Check out Carving Up wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. We hope you have a great weekend. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. I want to break something if someone has Wilson as a great president. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.